Hello, everyone. Welcome to Orange and Brew, the podcast where we made our two favorite pastimes, the Denver Broncos and beer. I am JT Matthews. You can find me at JTMatthews01 on Twitter, and I'm here with the doctor, Nicholas Manning, at Dr_N_Manning on Twitter. We are not. Unfortunately, John, our other co-host, is out today, but we're covering for him, and we're still going to have some good content. Doc, how you doing today?
You know what? I'm good. I woke up. The sun is out currently, and still got confidence in our boys to pull it out. But we'll see. It's going to be a little tougher than maybe some anticipated. And just keep going.
Yeah, we watched the Nuggets game together last night, and it wasn't great. I mean, the experience was fine.
Yeah, it was like 30 minutes of good basketball.
Yeah,
a 48-minute game.
Yeah, basically like the second half of the first quarter, and then the second quarter was pretty good. And then the only person that was good from then on out was Nikola Jokic. So
their game plan of letting him be the scorer, it worked for that,
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've seen that twice now in the playoffs. Once against Phoenix when Jokic dropped 53 and they lost. And now on this one where he dropped 41. Assist numbers were down. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they can kind of find situations for other guys to get involved. I think they can. I also think, maybe I'll sound like a fan, but I think the officiating was terrible.
It was terrible.
And, I don't like to lean on that, but like it was rough. They had a 3-point play that I think it was Caleb Martin stepped out of bounds and dished it to I think Jimmy, who hit a 3. Shouldn't have counted. They had a goaltend that shouldn't have counted, or that should have counted for the Nuggets. That's a 5-point swing. That's the game right there.
That's the game.
So I don't know. I feel like, if we play that bad and lost by 3, I'm not too worried, to be honest. And it's not supposed to be easy, right?
That's exactly it. It's this is what Miami does, right? They gut out wins essentially. And that's probably the best that we're going to see them play. The role players stepped up at key moments. Jimmy had a good game. Bam played well, and the Nuggets still had a chance to tie it at the end. And that was by far one of the worst games that I've seen them play in a while. So I feel I'm not shook. I said Nuggets in 5.
Sticking with it, you think they get 2 in Miami?
Yeah,
I think they can. I mean,
I don't think Miami's like necessarily a scary place to play.
No. Spoelstra did say though, like he'd, they were asking him about altitude, playing in the altitude in Colorado, and he's like, well, we could mix it up in Miami. We could turn the AC off and play, in a 90-degree or 80-degree arena with humidity.
They could. They've also been in Denver for a week. So
yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be some reality smack for them too, and when they get there. So it's okay.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that works because you do notice like when we vacation. I don't remember where we went. I think it was when we went to Pennsylvania to the Poconos, and we were working out. You were working out, and I was like, I'll join Nick, and then I got about 50 steps into a run, and I was like, I can't breathe. This air feels like I'm swimming.
Yeah,
like it's so thick. It works in the reverse too. Weirdly,
it does. Yeah, I mean, it takes some time, but yeah, are you gonna make all your fans miserable to try it? It's a natural. It's a natural benefit that the Nuggets and any Colorado team has. It's not like the Nuggets created the altitude.
Right.
Happens that's what it is. So, it'll be different down there, but I think that the Nuggets have what it takes. I think that this is that kind of team. I think that they'll come out. They were able to withstand some really good basketball from the Heat, and really should have put that game away. and I think they needed a gut check. Maybe they were feeling themselves a little bit, and this would be an opportunity for them to bounce back.
And I don't want to just blame the officials. The Nuggets made some bad plays down the stretch, some bad fouls, especially 2 KCP fouls on 3-point shooters. Mike, MPJ,
he was lost. He was lost on defense. His offense was
that foul at the end on Bam. We had basically a clear lane to dunk it, and he slaps his arm and gives him an extra point. Like, all of that was just, those were the nails in the coffin, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. They played bad enough that they needed the refs to have an even game, or till where you left it to doubt. They were up 8 going into the fourth quarter, so they should have closed it. And I bet that they will. I bet MPJ will have a tighter hook.
Yeah,
and I think KCP won't make those fouls again.
I think Mike Malone's got a. He's got a. I know he wanted to ride the bench for a while there too, because they were playing well. Yeah, you got to know when to get your stars back in the game. It seems like that was not a great in-game adjustment.
Yeah. I know that you want to ride the hot, but you also want to get your. When you're up 15 or whatever it was, you want Jamal back in the game, and you want them to like catch the hot too, so that they can elevate it. I get it. You don't want to put your guys in positions to get cheap fouls, but they really weren't. They really weren't in foul trouble throughout the game or anything like that. So, it'd be an opportunity. You wanted to have to earn it, so you didn't want to. If they just rolled over, it wouldn't have been any fun, to be honest.
Yeah, the regular season is for rewarding your bench guys with extra minutes, not the finals.
Yeah.
So hopefully they make a little change there. But at the end of the day, I'm not too worried. I think we're going to get it done. But I think it's also a good segue for what we want to talk about today, which is a little bit just kind of on the city of Denver, the sporting scene in Denver, and the impact of the Broncos, and kind of this recent success of the Nuggets. And you can tie in the Colorado Avalanche to that as well, having a cup just last year. What kind of pressure does that create for the Denver Broncos, not only in the city, but, kind of like we were talking about before the pod started? Kroenke's part of that family, the Walton family. He's married in. A lot of where his money came from was that marriage right there. And so what pressure does that have on him, if any, for the Broncos franchise specifically?
We talked a little bit about this last year when they became the clear-cut favorite, and I think there was a little bit because the Rams had just won, the Avs had not won yet, but they had been good, and so there was some thoughts or belief that this might be a thing. I think that family is competitive. I would be, right?
Totally.
If you own one, your brother-in-law owns one. You want it? I don't want him to beat me. No. Especially when we're neighbors, we occupy the same city.
Basically, if you had a team and I had a team,
yes, that'd be exactly.
I'd be happy if your team won, but I would want to beat your team.
I would also want to win. Yes, but I would like to do well. Because if the Mammoth also won, and we're a game away this year from back to back. It's. The Kroenke group has done it right in producing winners across sports. So to me, I think that has to elevate the expectation of the Walter Penner group. Not only the success within town, because I think that catches, right? I think when you see winning, you see that feeling that your neighbor's got, especially because some of those guys probably, run in the same circles, have similar agents.
Right.
You go to games, right? The Broncos attend the Nuggets games a lot. Go to Avs games, vice versa. Those guys go to other sporting events. So there's some we want that too. It's not this irrelevant thing that's happening in Ottawa or, the Stanley Cup finals, right? Where it's happening outside the state. It's within the building. So I think that there's something there for the players. Sean Payton's going to all the games, Russ Wilson, they get it. And for the ownership group, I think that they came in wanting to win. I think this elevates the desire to win. Hopefully it doesn't force bad decision makings to rush winning. But I think it cements the expectation that this team will do what it takes to win.
Yeah. I think, and just kind of on a wider view from the city, I mean, this Denver is historically a football city. I think we do a good job supporting all of our teams, especially when they're successful. And even the Rockies when they're not successful for a different reason. It's a little bit more of a night on the town kind of feel with the Rockies. Everyone likes to enjoy the weather during baseball season and get out and get a drink at the ballpark. But when those teams are successful, the fans show up. But the fans always show up for the Broncos. They don't always show up for the Avalanche, though it's been better, I would say, in the past years. But that's on the that's piggybacking off of the success of that for that franchise. Same with the Nuggets, but they didn't always show up for those teams historically. Broncos have always had the fan base. They've always had it. And I think that, I think when the other teams are successful, it's a nice reprieve, especially in times where the Broncos have really been struggling. But I do think it adds pressure, and I think it should add pressure. You want to be considered not a flyover state. You want to be considered a sports town, a place someone wants to go to compete year in and year out. Broncos haven't been that. And with the recent success of other teams, it's great for the city. I don't know that it's great for the Broncos specifically. And that the other piece is that media coverage, the national media coverage. As much as I dislike the national media coverage in general, especially, I think probably more this year, I've noticed it more than ever with the Nuggets and their success. Follow your local sports coverage people because they know what's up. But it's just like when you see Russ on the Jumbotron at a finals game and Justin Simmons is right next to him, and probably no one knows who Justin Simmons is. Justin Simmons is one of the best safeties in football. People should know who he is. You don't get coverage, though, if you don't win. And so I think if we want the Broncos to be on the map, they've got to be successful because, just from a national viewpoint, they're not viewed as, I think they're viewed in the NFL as a historically good place to play. But, if you haven't done anything lately, you kind of fall off the radar, especially in that national news cycle.
Yeah, and that's why I think the bar. I like your point. That I think it adds pressure to compete because really it's like they are the Rockies right now as much as we do it. Mm-hmm. And even look at it, the Rockies had more recent success than the Broncos have. It's a back-to-back playoff appearances in 2018, 2019.
Right.
90 win teams, some pretty good players. We don't want to talk about what's happened since, but 2019 is not that long ago, right? I mean, it's 2 seasons in a 60-game COVID year or whatever. That was just weird. So really, they're not that far off. We know that it's just not a good franchise, and they won't probably be good again for a bit. But I think that there's some expectation there. And so for me, I don't know if it will. I think there's some extra motivation for the players because of that. The point that you made there, if I'm Justin Simmons, getting paid $17 million a year, I'm really good at football. No one really outside of the local market knows who I am. That sucks.
Yeah.
It's and I would be tired of that. And not like I want endorsements but
sure.
I want the respect that I'm owed because I'm damn good at football, and players know who he is. Coaches sure as heck know who he is, all that good stuff. But like you said, you get it if you're winning.
Yep.
And it's time for them to stop messing around and get the job done.
Get the job done. And I think we're getting close to that. I think you're bringing in pieces that, that presumably Russell hasn't shown us what we want to see from him in year one. The idea is to bring in someone who's won it, who has experience, who can get you to that point. I still think that Russ is that guy. I think you have to build the right rooms around him. You have to put the right pieces in place. But I think that's true with any quarterback in the league. I don't think that that's special for Russ. it's just a matter of, building that culture. And we've seen that kind of with these two NBA teams, to go back to that, that little connective tissue. The Heat aren't necessarily the most talented team, but they're cohesive. They play as a team. They have kind of that culture that you want. The Nuggets, I think, for the last 5 years or so, but without the injuries, I think they could have been in the finals last year. They could have been in the finals maybe the year before. But that culture is what guys came here for. Guys like KCP who won it, and guys like Bruce Brown who are good role players. You get those guys because of a culture that's around a building. And I think the Broncos are closer to that now than they have been in the last 5 years, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about some specifics that they can do in our second segment. I heard this really great podcast, that athletic football podcast. They were talking about culture versus, talent.
Yeah.
And kind of the cutthroat nature of the NFL and making smart business choices. But how do you factor in culture? You pay good money to guys that are okay players because you value culture, but there has to be some ebb and flow there. And I don't think until this point they had really nailed that. And because I think that Sean Payton is a guy that demands respect or, fall in line, he is a general and he gets it. And I think that he comes with cachet.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that they're very much now is, we do have a culture because it sits from the top. Like before it was like, what do we have here? Vic, I think that there was some toughness and mentality, attention to details, which they did pretty well for the most part. Minimal penalties, that kind of stuff. Last year, God knows whatever it was. And now I think that there is some of that, and bringing in guys like Samaje Perine, Zach Allen, guys that you chose to give pretty good contracts for what their roles probably will be, to guys that haven't, he's not 1,000-yard back. Perine is a backup, a good role player. Zach Allen hasn't had double-digit sacks yet. He hasn't been to a Pro Bowl yet, those kind of things. But there was a fit that was different than what Draymond would bring. Right. And so I think that there is some now understanding about what that looks like. McGlinchey, Ben Powers, there's an identity now that the Nuggets had to figure out, right? Who are we? What do we do? Commit to Nikola and what's going to work for our team. The Avs did the same thing, right? With Nate and with Gabe and Miko, and it was, we're going to do that. You get Makar, kind of figure out what that is. So, their strategies, we're going to rotate with average backups and win with a really good right. Like we have a diagram on how we build success. Broncos didn't have that. Like, I don't know what they're doing. So I think it's a good opportunity for them to be able to set the stage.
Yeah. I just think culture is so big, and it's one of those things that it's hard to come by. I mean, you see teams go through. That's where these dynasties come from. It starts at the bottom, and like we kind of talked about in a past pod, I don't remember which one, but the Ted Lasso, where you come in and do the comment box or the suggestion box, and everyone thinks it's dumb, but someone just happens to put in there that the shower pressure sucks. And then that's the next, when they come into practice next time, that's fixed. It's those little things that kind of, and we've heard Sean Payton talk about that. Those are things that they're going to think about. Those are things that they're going to consider. And it's a nice change of pace. All to say that I think this could be leading to a good year for Denver. As we predicted on our last pod, we predicted 11. What was the final?
12-5. But I think adding in your overly negative view to I bet it will be, I think 10 wins is expected. Anything above that, I think, would be gravy, barring anything catastrophic. But like you said, it should be in line for a much better season than we've had the luck of having previously.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's anticipating we win the division necessarily. You know, you could we maybe.
Yeah, the could is there, and I think realistically before that, it was just fandom speaking. If anyone thought we really could challenge for the division, I think this year, roster wise, you have a roster that can stack up with anyone in the division, in my opinion, and you have the head coach now that can maximize the talent for the first time, long time.
Yeah, it was hopeful. I mean, it was hopeful thinking too, right? Like you don't know we didn't know what we were going to get from Nathaniel Hackett, but if things had gone well, we still had, like we've said, our roster isn't all that different than it was last year. So I don't know. I don't think we were crazy.
It's really not, right? Like it's I think you have more stability at right tackle, and in my opinion, an upgrade at left guard.
Yeah.
And I mean, you shuffled out a couple of pieces for other ones, Draymond for Zach Allen, but essentially, right, you're kind of running it back. So hopefully they catch it, right? So hopefully we have an opportunity to have we have champions one, a year after year, and not necessarily the Broncos will be in the Super Bowl, but I think maybe the understanding of how those teams have conducted business, right? Nikola Jokic is business. Jamal Murray is business, and he's learned that. My MPJ has shut his mouth, and he's been business in case that team expects to win, and they operate that way. And so did the Avalanche, right? Like they couldn't even have pudding in there. Locker room, whatever. Like
McKinnon's making them all go plant-based.
Yeah, he's like cutting that crap out. Like we're here to win, and I think that mentality was missing. I think Russ wanted to win. I think he expects to win, but this franchise didn't remember how to win. And I think with Sean Payton coming, I think it was a good step in the right direction.
Yep, I agree. Let's not take a break. We're not gonna have a huge beer segment this time, so I'm just gonna tell you what I'm drinking today.
Okay.
And it's Doc. You drank this previously.
I did.
Car Camper. I didn't get a chance to drink this one. We were supposed to drink this because we were syncing up on our beers, and I was unwell one day last week. It's a Car Camper hazy pale ale from Great Divide. It looks cool. I like the can. Love me a hazy IPA. There's not really much information on the can here, so
no, just ABV. I think and, small writing.
I don't see it. Am I missing it? Or am I missing it?
You'll see it.
I don't know. I'll find it. Oh yeah, 5%. It's 5%. So it's not a. You could probably crush one or two of these bad boys. I don't know how crushable they are, but as far as alcohol content goes,
yeah.
Let's. I'm gonna pop it open real quick. You ready?
Let's go. And since I'm dieting again, because I went a little out of control for a week, just the.
Got you a White Claw.
The old two carb White Claw.
Oh, it's the boosted one though, isn't it? Yeah, the higher alcohol.
Yeah, for sure.
How much?
It's 8%.
Just nice. So you're getting it.
I mean, if you're gonna go White Claw, go White Claw.
Yeah. I mean, you got to make up for the healthiness with something.
Fact.
Yeah.
Cheers, bro.
Yeah. Cheers. Ooh, you cannot crush that. That is not crushable.
No. I mean, I could crush it, but I have a problem.
Very hops forward. Not I wouldn't say it's in a good way, but it's not bad. I don't know. What did you think when you had it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was flavorful, not overly, but yeah, it a lot of flavor for only 5%.
It's all very front of mouth for me. Like it hits you. It hits you. That's what's going to get you. If you like that bitter beer, that's the one for you. I'm going to keep sipping it though, because it's not bad. Like I said, IPAs don't lose on this show. Really, I'll give it a small dub for an IPA.
You give it a small dub, regular dub,
small dub.
Okay,
we'll go small dub. Yeah. And then let's just transition into our next topic.
Okay.
We got a few. I want to start with.
We can mix it. I think we can mold it into a topic.
Yeah, well, kind of. I think so. I mean, okay, let's do that. So I'm not going to start with what I was going to start with, but let's talk about the Broncos offense in this upcoming season and the the potential that it has. Again, we kind of talked about the roster not really having much turnover. What's changed with this offense? Do you think that this can be a great Broncos offense? Because I think from a scheme and coaching standpoint, then yes, it can be improved. I don't know with the personnel that it can be great. And so I need some convincing.
It's interesting with the personnel. I didn't think the personnel before was the problem. I thought the lack of cohesion, the lack of planning, the lack of foresight, the lack of nuance.
Can I say, I'll just say, I have lost a little bit of faith in our wide receiver room. I don't know that is on them or if it was on kind of the whole offensive scheme last year.
Yeah.
But obviously Tim Patrick's immune from this conversation. But I lost a little faith in Court. I thought that he had the potential to come back to Pro Bowl numbers. I don't know that I feel that way anymore. I've kind of always been a little bit down on Jerry. Not that I don't think he's talented or has the potential. I don't know that I felt like he could live up to that potential. Yeah. He hadn't shown me enough to feel like he could live up to that potential. Sure. And then guys that you take flyers on, like KJ, like I know, I mean, he was a high enough draft pick that it shouldn't feel like you're taking a flyer on him, but it's kind of felt that way so far. And so, you know, I like the pieces that they put in as far as depth goes. I like some of the young guys. But I don't know. I think I've lost a little bit of faith in that room. Javonte coming off of an injury. I still need to see what that looks like. Do I think that they're going to be better? Yes. I just don't know if they're a top 12 offense. You know, I would probably guess that they'd be somewhere between 12 and 16. I'd hope, you know, hopefully top 15.
Yeah. I mean, will they be in the top half? But that's not what we were looking at. Right. So we were looking at, are they going to be great this year? And
right.
Maybe let's.
Sorry, I was just setting the table with my expectations.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. Well, let's look at it from like, how were they last year? Right. So
sure.
Walter Sharp sent out a tweet talking about the drives ending in turnovers or 3 and outs, I believe. Right. And the Broncos by far had the most. Well, the second to last was like a couple off, but they were double the Lions. They had 117. One of the worst scoring offenses in the league, actually in Broncos history, if I do recall. And so I thought it would be kind of impactful to see what could we expect. So what would be the appropriate thing for Broncos country to really expect from the Broncos this season. So I looked at, we kind of talked about, and I think it'll roll into some of your points. Through Sean Payton's entire time in New Orleans, the Saints averaged scores on 40% of their drives. So I wasn't able to pull all the data about 3 and outs and all that good stuff. But
sure.
But that's pretty phenomenal. And Russell Wilson's time in Seattle, the Seahawks averaged or scored about 38% of their drive. So roughly, they're scoring 40% of the time combined. So you would think you merge those two things together, I think it's fair to expect something like that. Well, the Broncos last year were at 28% scoring on their drives. I mean, that is significant. It is significant. And in comparison, the Broncos in previously, even if you were to look at like decades of time, up to that point in 20 through 2021, under Teddy Bridgewater, for goodness sake, they were 33.5% in 2021. So you look at that digression. I just don't think Russ is that bad. I think when you look at cohesive game planning and offensive schematics, you look at the first game last year, you look at Nathaniel Hackett leaving, so the final 2 games, those games were old school Russ. Running for 40 yards a game and averaging like 270 yards passing with 2 to 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
and in doing it minimally, right? There's sound running. The running game was there. It was big plays, which I think are something to be expected. So I expect the Broncos to be a much improved team. Will they be great? That's a good question. To me, it's like great is like top 10. Will they be top 10?
Yeah.
And I would look at points versus yards. I think not all yards matter.
Sure.
So kind of looking at points per game. So points per game last year, Kansas City tops at almost 30. And then about the top 10, I think, is Miami at 23 points a game.
Okay.
Could they average 23 points a game? Could they be as good as the Vegas Raiders were last year? The Chargers only averaged 23 points a game. When you look at it, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
To be quite honest, the Packers only averaged 21. The Giants, who were 10-6 or 10-7, I think, scored 21.5. Baltimore only scored 20 points a game. I think that there is a significant jump. Just everything went bad for this team last year. I don't see how it can do that again with the coaching staff. And so, they averaged 16.9 points a game. So can they get up to the 20? Can they get up to 23.8, 24 points a game? I think they can. Will they? Because, you kind of expect maybe some regression from some of those teams. And I think Minnesota might fall off a little bit. Lions will get a much better schedule. Philadelphia will play a tougher schedule. Minnesota will play a tougher schedule. Seattle will play a tougher schedule. Jacksonville will play a much tougher schedule. There will be a significant jump. Miami will play a tougher schedule. So you assume that those players will, those teams will kind of pick each other off a little bit. So I don't know. I can't say top 10. I'm going to end my rant here in a second. But I think top half. And to me, it's like playoff worthy. So 7 times 7 is 14. 14 teams make playoffs. Could they be top 14? I think so. I expect it. I expect that they will be a team that can produce 20 to 25 points a game and really reduce some of the critical errors that, the 3 and outs, that stuff that just leaves your defense gassed, which will really make this team improved. We'll see. We'll see if Russ can be what Russ could be. You really want some more, I think, impactful depth in that running back room. But I think the Broncos have talent. I think that this is probably the best player-for-player offensive line in a while. Cam Fleming played really well at right tackle last year, but he wasn't the plan. So going into the season, Mike McGlinchey is the best right tackle they've had under contract since Orlando, probably, right? And then Ben Powers, in my opinion, is an upgrade at left guard. Garrett Bowles will be back healthy. And Quinn Miners, I think, played real well last year. And now I think with actual NFL offensive line coaching, instead of sticky notes and passive-aggressive comments, center will be a question mark. But if you're going to have one question mark, that's probably the place to have it. It's a guy that's flanked by 2 other guys. Javonte, the big question, that is for sure. But you don't find much value in running back, so you find a dime a dozen all over the place. Apparently, that's what I heard. So I think that they could be pretty good. Marvin Mims, big impact player. TP Streets back this year. And he's not a guy that wins with agility. So the ACL, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to impact him. I think that's a tough cat. So I think they have the pieces to be a pretty good team. And I expect them to be much better on offense because I don't think Sean Payton he'll stand for that crap.
Yeah. No, I think it's all good points. And when you kind of frame it in points per game, I think if you are averaging 3 touchdowns, that doesn't seem too unattainable.
It really doesn't, right?
It seems like that's something that the Broncos should be able to reach. And if that's putting you in the same ballpark as the Chargers and the Ravens, the teams that were competitive and playoff teams last year, then no reason to think that they can't reach that point. So I do agree with that. I would agree. I don't know that they're a top 10 offense. I think the answer to the question is, can the offense be great this year? I think there's a lot of variables, but I think we both feel like maybe not an all-time great offense, but definitely an improved offense. And really, that's all we want right now. I don't think we're looking to be the top offense right now. I don't think Broncos fans' expectations are that wild, but like I just think they want to see some measure of success, some game planning that goes kind of according to plan. Less gaffes out there on the field, and I think that's enough to make them happy. And I think the improvement of the offensive line, including Garrett Bowles coming back, I think that's going to be a really large piece there too. You build a team through the trenches, or at least a lot of franchises go that direction with it. You want to build in the trenches first, and the Broncos did that. If that was a problem and everything else was a symptom, then you've at least addressed that problem. Have you fixed it completely? Time will tell. But maybe you'll see a lessening of those symptoms with those acquisitions too. And then, coaching, as we've kind of learned, especially with the success of the Nuggets and Avs, if we want to kind of go back to that, it's important. It's not just, a guy that goes out and creates a game plan. It's a lot of different aspects. It's managing personalities. It's managing the building in the locker room. It's creating a culture. It is game planning, and but I also think it's also creating connectivity throughout the building too. And so, I think they've addressed some really big pieces that, at the end of the day, could synergize into something that's really an improved product. And then hopefully we'll just continue to improve over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a fun way to look at it, and I think that they've approached it the right way at the very least.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. The other piece I did want to bring up was an article by Mile High Huddle. Actually, Keith Cummings dropped it about 2 hours ago, and it's about Russell Wilson's deep ball. And I think if I was just guessing going into this article, I would have guessed it was bottom half of the league. But it turns out, as far as deep balls go, based on their criteria, Russ was 7th last year in the league as far as the deep ball success. He attempted 73, completion 26 of 73 for 1,008 yards. 6-2 touchdown to interception ratio, 99.8 passer rating. Good enough for good enough for 7th of all quarterbacks last year. I don't know that I would have guessed that, to be honest. It says when he started this exercise, the individual, Keith Cummings, said, "I didn't think Wilson would have much of a chance ending up in the top 10, primarily because they had a bad season. But despite the wide-ranging problems with Denver's offense, Wilson was surprisingly effective when it came to airing it out. He finished with the second most deep attempts in passing yards of any qualifying quarterback, with a significantly better touchdown to interception ratio versus non-deep throws. And he deserves credit for posting those numbers despite being pressured on nearly 40% of deep attempts." So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. I wouldn't have guessed that. So if you kind of put that in, and then we kind of got news that Russ has slimmed down a little bit in the off season, maybe taking that time between the season and camp to get himself right. I think we all felt like maybe there was some work to do on Russ's end. I think those are all positive things. I think those are things that you can look at going into the season and say, Russ hasn't lost that much. I think they've got to figure out how to use the middle of the field. They've got to figure out how to game plan these tight ends. But I don't think it's all that doom and gloom, as some people would lead you
Yeah.
to someone doing some lawn work outside?
We're having housework. Someone's drilling in the back, putting up some, getting some additions to the home.
Gotcha.
I'm going to town with the saw right now. So
Hey, going crazy. Perfect timing, right?
my apologies.
It's all right. It happens. Sorry to the listeners, but still good content regardless. But anyways, I just thought those were good tidbits to add to kind of the conversation about this offense, because I think I think the opinions on Russ, I felt, have been more negative than positive, especially and maybe deservedly so, given his productivity last year and a little bit of kind of his persona since he's been in Denver. He does very much seem like and maybe treats himself as an untouchable guy in the locker room. This is all presumptuous. I don't know Russ. We don't know Russ. We don't have a clear tie to that locker room. But I think there are some viewpoints out there that, like, Russ is in the game for Russ. And I think him recommitting himself to maybe some offseason conditioning and just the fact that the numbers don't necessarily suss out that he's going to be ineffective in the passing game.
Yeah, I really do. If you go look at Russ's 2021 stats, the guy was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
He had 68.8% pass or completion percentage.
That's huge.
For 4,212 yards, 7.5 per attempt, 40 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. So, and that was before he got hurt in 2021. So a phenomenal year. I expect that the Broncos will look much closer to that than the Russ last year. I think Sean Payton is smart enough, especially when you talk about the deep ball accuracy. He has one of the best in the game. He has for a long time. He's shown ability when an offense is balanced to be able to complete a high percentage of his throws. And a guy like Sean Payton will build that into the offensive scheme. So I'm really excited about how it's going to look for the Broncos this season. And to transition to kind of our last subtopic, they have to have a balanced running attack. They just have to.
Yeah. Do you think that that's like what this Sean Payton isn't necessarily known for an elite running attack? I think he's known for having diverse running back. I think you see guys like Alvin Kamara. I guess maybe less so. Not that he's known for having a rushing dominant offense, but maybe a little bit unorthodox. Like, you're relying on backup quarterbacks to have some carries. You're relying on a multitude of backs to do different things. And I wonder if maybe that's what colors my perception of that.
Yeah, I mean, they are a running back by committee group, right? Whether that's Mark Ingram in the past, Alvin Kamara, etc. They were a team that did those kind of things. Alvin Kamara, a couple of years ago, Sean Payton's last year, had 898 yards, but they had Taysom Hill, right, that they were game planning with. Mark Ingram, Tony Jones, who's now on the Broncos roster. So they had a bunch of guys that really were able to kind of adjust and be a part of that scheme. They were, if I recall, kind of middle of the pack when it comes to rushing that year. But before that, it really was, they really have been kind of a balanced team when you look at that. He's been a guy in Sean Payton who has really valued rushing the football because it allows for more diversity of the offense. And sometimes they'll substitute that with swing passes or running backs, et cetera. So if you go back 2 years, Alvin Kamara with almost 1,000 yards rushing, Latavius Murray with 656, Taysom Hill with 457, and then Ty Montgomery with an additional 101, and then some small scat back numbers throughout. But that's 2,000 yards from four players that they really they really found opportunities for them to rush the football. So he is an offensive play caller who values the running game and expects it to work because I think that they feast on the play action game. I mean, you saw that with Drew Brees a lot, and if you can kind of translate that to a team like the Broncos, where Russ Wilson has one of the best deep balls in the game, I think that will be, I think that will be really impactful. And they were the Saints in 2020 were the 6th best rushing offense in the league. So I kind of expect something similar, really pound the rock. This year, I think they have to be. And that's why the Dalvin Cook stuff comes out again. Yep. And, though Javonte was on the field limited, you brought it up. What kind of player is he going to be? If that's a guy that you can sign off the street, some people are, I'd rather have Joe Schmo or, whoever. And maybe, I'm not married to the idea of Dalvin Cook. I love it. Not married to it. I am in favor of adding good players, and you're paying Sean Payton a lot of money to manage workloads and personalities and expectations and all that stuff. Go get good players. We saw what happened to this team last year. Javonte got hurt. Melvin couldn't hold on to the football to save his life. You're running. Damari Crockett gets hurt. Like guys are getting hurt. Like boom, boom, boom. You have to send Latavius Murray off of the street, and then it takes you 4 weeks to figure out that he can play, which I think really eats into the credibility of this team and like how they were playing towards the end of the season. So, go get good players. And I'd rather have too many good players cut one during the middle of the year because they're unhappy and throwing a fit than get to a place where they can't run the ball, because they have to be a team that runs the ball to be offensively successful. So the way to get to top 10 offense is they have to be a top 10 running offense. And if they are, teams have to commit to the run. And I think that the deep ball will be there. Marvin Mims, that addition, I think will be huge. And Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick have been guys that can go up and get a 50-50 ball. And you got Jerry Jeudy, who's a double move king, and on play action, that would be huge. So I think that's what has to happen. And I think if I were to wager the Cook to Denver, I'd say it's like 40-60 that he comes here, but I think it's a higher number than most would think.
I've seen
Miami would have made sense.
Yeah.
But then they went and drafted a running back with the 3rd round. They re-signed both Wilson and Mozart, I recall.
Yeah.
So maybe,
I think they did. I think that's
maybe, right. But not sure that that's a need. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think I saw even as recent as 2 days ago, they're still tying him to Miami. So we'll see. But yeah, no, I agree. I do worry. Do you worry? Because I do worry about Javonte Williams' ability to come back from this injury a little bit. The thing that I liked about Javonte wasn't necessarily his burst to begin with. And I think that could be impacted. To me, he was a guy, if you got to him behind the line of scrimmage, that's your best case scenario. For me, he's not as, I wouldn't say has no burst, but I would say it's definitely wasn't like his top trait. I'm a worry that it could impact him longer term. I'm worried that it could impact him this year at the very least. So I would be in favor of bringing someone else in. Do you think that injury is problematic specifically for him?
I would think so. I mean, that was a devastating injury.
Yeah, it was huge.
That is an 18-month kind of a recovery. So who knows, and will that linger? Will you have hamstrings and stuff because you're compensating? I mean, I hope not. He's not a deep speed guy, but he is. I got to get through the whole guy, right? See it, get through with some power. I'm a little worried. I don't think he's going to come out of the gates and be the player he was when he got hurt.
Right.
I hope that he is. Hope I'm wrong, but
me too.
Yeah, not sure.
Yeah, it's a concern of mine, and so I think like you said, the more bodies you can bring in, even if it, like you said, if it turns out you end up cutting someone, because they're not jazzed about their playing time or whatever, at least you had that opportunity to kind of get your feet underneath you and see what you have. I think it's something that they need to do. So I would be on board for Dalvin Cook. But like you said, a number of guys, even as far down as Ezekiel Elliott, that's someone that we've talked about. Not necessarily a guy that he might be a guy that you would let go because he wasn't getting carries because just from his personality in the past. But just bodies, guys that have upside that can spell you in kind of a warm-up period for Javonte, or end up taking over that lead role if he doesn't quite come back from the injury fully.
Yeah, I think you have to go and get in someone that you feel comfortable with on 3 downs. I think them and Smudge AP Ryan, someone like McLaughlin that we've talked about.
Yeah.
I think them being kind of your scat back, and then maybe you keep a big back for special teams and kind of a fourth role. That would be something for me, I think. But they have to be able to run the ball. So if his progress, that as in Williams' progress is really that tremendous, it makes sense to not make a move. But my opinion, it still stands. Like, bring in good players, let them sort it out. Right? This is it's a meritocracy. Football is the better players are going to play for teams that want to win. So, go get a guy and hedge your bets a little bit.
For sure. Any closing thoughts before we close this out today?
You know what? We're going to come back on Thursday live, and we'll be breaking down a little bit on how the Nuggets went up 2-1.
That is the dream. That is my dream. And let's manifest it.
Some people know,
Let's manifest that. Also, I think we're going to do a mailbag on Thursday.
Big facts.
So hit us with your questions on Twitter, Insta, wherever you want to reach out. You can reach out to us personally. You can reach out to Orange_and_Brew on Twitter as well. And we'll make sure to field your questions. But we'll be putting out a tweet later this week to kind of start gauging those questions. And of course, if you join us live, you get to ask your questions live too. We'll take them then also, just if you want opinions on this team, thoughts, feelings, whatever. And it can be about beer, it can be about Broncos, it can be about whatever you want. Because we're just that damn accommodating. So there you go. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you as always. We're going to head out, but thank you. Be kind to one another. Be safe out there, and go Broncos.
Hey, go Broncos.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way.